Hello, my name is Chris Howard. As I get older, I realize that the stories of our elders need to be preserved. So I've decided to try my hand in the world of podcasting by recording some conversations with Frank Gutkowski. Frank's sons are Tony and Luke. I think of them as brothers. Frank, also known as Butch, also known as Old Man, has been a huge influence on me for many years. And here is how I plan to repay the favor. Please join me while I have a cigar with Butch.
Number one occupation, still a word from their band.
We're live with episode 5. I don't think Butch got to do any fishing this past. The weather didn't cooperate.
No, I went once. I went to Silver Creek. I got 2 bass and a steelhead. That was about it. The water's been too high, too muddy, and too windy to go on the lake.
Well, he said the water was brown the other day when we went down there, so
yeah,
launching the boat was probably not an option. We're going to talk a little bit. We'll go back to the farm. Your Italian grandfather never had a driver's license because he couldn't read English to pass the test.
Right.
So before your mom was driving him around, before she was old enough to drive him around, or how did they get the vegetables to market?
Well, originally, my grandfather would take them with his horses to the railroad in Lakeview, which is about at the most 2.5 miles away from the farm.
So it'd go down North Creek Road to 5?
No,
or is it in there?
You didn't have to go all the way to 5. The railroad runs just about a half a mile the other side of Route 20.
Okay.
And then there was a neighbor, Judge Jones, who was also a farmer, although he was one of those guys back then that had the little dairy farm with like 30 cows, maybe,
Yep.
40 cows, and a couple of beef cattle. But he used to help my parents and my granddad out a lot.
Hauling produce or anything they might need. And Grandma didn't drive.
No.
So they didn't have a vehicle until Mom got old enough to drive?
I don't know about my uncles. I know my uncles both had vehicles.
And they were older than your mom by
a
few years, so.
Yeah.
So they probably drove around a little bit before then.
Yep.
Okay. Before your father was the one that started taking them to the market directly?
Clinton Bailey Market, yeah.
It was his scheme to haul them up there, or did your mom haul them
Well, my
there?
mom did it first, and then, my dad would do it because he worked afternoons to make that extra. Back then it was probably 12 cents an hour extra.
So he could just drop the stuff off?
Yeah.
And somebody would buy it from him,
and then he'd go back and pick up the check, or they would mail it.
And that pretty much paid the bills on the farm?
Yeah.
That and the stand out front.
Yep.
Once you get a good stand out front, people come from a long ways to...
Yes, they do.
Once they figure out that's where the good stuff is. So, whether it be union or non-union, what was your favorite job? I'm sorry, your least favorite job in construction, not chipping. We've already stated that.
Driving with an arrow board behind the truck on the shoulder of the thruway when they're putting those grooves in the road.
That job seems like it would be a blast because you're just sitting there getting paid good money to drive a truck.
Yeah, but
try staying awake.
Exactly. And the thing was, because I did pay attention, I was the first truck. So I'm a mile and a half behind the machine doing the work.
Right.
I'm a half a mile behind the second aeroboard truck, which sits in the lane. I had to straddle the white line
to create the cone.
Yeah.
But
there were no cones,
right.
And you're moving, the machine moved at 1.6 miles an hour.
Yeah. To put the rumble strip in on the side.
Yeah.
So we did, and Tony worked with us for a saw and seal company on that section of the thruway. And it was the saw would go through and cut a groove, and then somebody had to drive a truck with a hose coming over the front, and the guy had a copper pipe with a valve.
Yeah, blow that out.
Blow that out. But now, so you got a guy in front of you 15 feet, and and sitting in a truck with the sun beating on you.
Yeah.
It was one of the worst jobs probably that we had to do, and you took turns doing it because walking was way better.
Yeah.
So the dust was bad even when you wore the mask, and it still was just everywhere.
You're covered.
Yeah. But that's probably about the same thing with that machine because it's making the groove, and probably had a vacuum on it or whatever. But.
It did. It had a vacuum on it, and it basically grabbed and it had water.
See, we couldn't use water with a saw.
No.
Because we were going right behind it and putting tar in.
Right.
So it was just, you ate it. And no matter what you did, mask and good mask. You didn't breathe much of it in, but it was everywhere. It was in your lunchbox. It was, you change your clothes before you got in the car to come home.
Yeah. And Saturday you'd find the spot you missed when you were washing up.
Yep. So I kind of gave you at least the headline of the questions before we start. So I was hoping you gave a little time to reflect and think of your favorite music festival story.
Either the first or second Blue Herons, and they would let you camp on top of the hill. So you were probably, 100 yards away from the music. And they announced Friday, no fireworks unless it's in your tent. Well, we had the 20 by 40 army tent set up, and it was raining out, so we had a little campfire inside the tent. I can't remember the guy's name, but he probably had 1,000 lady fingers, and he'd throw them in the fire, and they go bang, 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 bang. Well, a guy from the Heron comes up and says, there's no fireworks. No, you're wrong. It says right here on the flyer, you can only have fireworks in your tent.
Should have been more clear.
Well, we were in a tent.
How many people do you figure are at that first Heron?
Oh, geez. 300 maybe? It was only $12.
It wasn't as many trails anyways cut yet, right?
No.
Because that originally was a campground, but I don't know what part of it was campground and what part of it was, still wood.
Just down near the lake. And then you had the field next door where the parking lot is, wasn't even part of it.
Right. And they didn't, when we used to park there up until recently, they didn't own that.
Right.
They rented it. and they had to pay per car for whoever parked there. And then they bought that section of farm, crowdfunding, I do believe, is how they did it. So it's...
And the back pond wasn't there.
Right.
But, and camping in the woods, there was virtually nothing.
Right.
Yep. But yeah, the first 3 years we camped
right about where the kids' tent is, or just above where the kids' area is.
Yeah.
Right on the roadway right there.
I'm a wanted man in Texas, but still I'm awful good. I'm a wanted man in Texas, but still I'm awful good. Sheriff's gonna catch me, but this little girl sure wish she would.
Then, what about your favorite concert story?
I don't know, it's kind of tied.
Let's hear both and we'll decide.
Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band.
What kind of time frame is this?
80s.
I was going to say, because I think Bob Seger's on his 14th final tour right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
But he had the sax player, and the sax player, all of a sudden you hear him playing, he's not on stage, you don't know where he is. All of a sudden a light goes on top of the huge mountain of speakers, and he's up standing on top of the speakers.
Which is tough to climb with a sax, probably.
Yeah. And the Grateful Dead in Syracuse at we call it the Crazy Dome.
Yeah. Now, did you play, is that a couple-day adventure?
Well, yeah, we made it a camping trip going to Syracuse, but they only played the one day. And that was kind of strange because I forget what happened. They told everybody to go back to their seats and sit down. Well, on the floor of the arena, it was all folding chairs. And to make more room to dance and stuff, all the chairs were up against the sides, so you had no chairs. But they kept saying, go back to your seats and sit down. And finally, Bob Weir comes on the stage, on the microphone. He says, look, I don't know if they can't see or what, but there are no seats, so just go where you're supposed to be and stand there so we can play.
We had spoke a little bit about losing some memories of the music. What were when did you really start concert going? Did you go with the first wife at all, or was it after that you really got into traveling for it?
No, we'd go to local stuff. You know, like I said, I saw Todd Rundgren at Chestnut Ridge Park. Saw Arlo Guthrie at...
That'd be a good one.
Anyways, it was a bar over in Lancaster. What they did is they took a barn and turned it into a bar. And it was only existence for about 4 or 5 years, but they would have like national bands, and they had local bands that would go in there all the time.
Now, when did you start did you take Tony and his sisters at all to
No,
concerts
they
or
were
anything like that?
separated from me then.
Okay.
They were living up towards Rochester.
So, like, to the music festivals, like, was the Heron the first one you took Luke to?
No. They used to have a Chalker Festival over near Bath, New York. And this is a funny story. We were potty training Luke, so we brought his little potty chair. And me and his mom were asleep. He had to go. We had the potty chair out in front of the tent. And he goes out to use the potty chair, and it's raining out. And somebody was up in the big tent that says, Luke, come in here out of the rain. And he says, I can't, I gotta go.
And then did he go to the first Heron with you? He'd have been...
No, that was before he was born.
Then and then Tony, after he moved in with you, probably ventured to the Heron with you. So with the speaking of forgetting and mismeasuring or anything like that, and what made me think about it was Sunday you wanted to bring some beans down for us to serve with hot dogs at our hot dog cart.
Yeah, and I messed them up.
And you said I messed them up. I had bean mush. And I got to thinking about it, and I remember a Thanksgiving when you were going to smoke a turkey and went hunting, completely forgot about starting the smoker. But I already had brined the turkey. In the oven it went. You brought it. It had to be the best oven turkey I've ever had. Was with the brine, with it being brined beforehand. Right. So I got to wondering what recipes that you still use that you only came across because you forgot to do something or put too much of something in, or a mistake that turned into the actual recipe.
That's a hard one. But that brining a turkey before you cook it, is, ever since I did that, I hate to cook a turkey without brining it.
But that's probably how a lot of your recipes get tweaked. It's not necessarily a mistake, but try this, try that.
Yeah.
Or what did I forget in this? Why is it better? Or why is it worse? I need more of that then.
Because it's like the chicken sauce. I always did it with the, what do you call it? By hand, whipped it by hand. And I had to do enough for like 150 pounds. And I had to work, and I didn't really have the time to do it properly, so I started using the blender.
Now, the stand-up blender or like the stick blender?
No. This, originally, it was just the jar blender, the 1 quart at a time.
Right.
And I liked the way it turned out. And then when I got the stick blender, I figured, well, hell, I can do...
Right in a quart jar.
No, I put it in a bowl and do 3 batches at a time. And it turns out the same way.
Right. Well, use the stick blender works good for making mayonnaise and Miracle Whip. Because I'd never seen mayonnaise made until burgers at your house when I first started hanging out with Luke. And I was watching you do it, never seen it done before, and that is the way to do it. Fresh is the way to have it. It's just whether you have time to do it or not, it's a different story.
Well, it's a whole lot better like in macaroni salad or... The whole thing is fresh mayonnaise, you got a week.
There's no preservatives in it or anything.
Yeah, you got a week. And keep it cold.
Yep. I used it for some smoked chicken salad. Mayonnaise. I made some mayonnaise and some with Miracle Whip, some salad dressing.
Yeah.
And both of them just amazing like that, but it doesn't last a week.
The doctor called me crazy. Some says I am, some says I ain't. always say.
So, going back to talking about music, pretty much my experience with music was country radio or whatever we were listening to on sports, in school or whatever. A lot of the music I listen to now either is or stemmed from the music that you and Luke and Tony introduced me to, being more the bluegrass or the Grateful Dead stuff. Not so much, but some of the Doors. But most of it they considered to be a rock. But after years of listening to it and putting it with other groups, I find it to be more of original country.
Yeah.
And then, come to find out, and again, stuff I find out later, and I think I'm the first one to know it. But Jerry Garcia's country band came to the the one year, the Purple Sage. Something, I'll mess it up.
New Riders in the Purple Sage.
Right, I knew I'd mess it up if I tried to remember the name. And it was really like swing country. It was really good stuff. So I utilize the internet radio now, and I'll come across people that, I'll hear a song and I'll look at it and see what it was. My phone's full of screenshots, different music today. And one of them that I found probably 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little longer, was Cody Jinks. And he's a Marine Corps veteran, combat veteran. And when he come back, he decided that's what he was going to do, was play his music. He did his own label. In return for you had mentioned some awesome memories or whatever. So I said, what we're going to start doing is I'm going to start sending you some of these, and they're going to be mostly original country, but you're not going to hear them on the radio. If a song comes on my Pandora that's on the radio, I thumbs down it. Get rid of that. I don't want to hear it. I only want to hear stuff that's not on the radio. So I sent you a couple of songs, and then I told you to go ahead and look on the YouTube. What did you think of Cody Jinks?
Oh, I think he's great.
Did you find a song that you liked?
Working Man.
Yeah. I sent you a few more the other night. It's amazing how many songs he has out. How many have you listened to, you think?
Oh, half a dozen or so. There's that other one about him waking up in the morning with his clothes still on.
Yeah. That very well could be the Hippies and Cowboys, that first one I sent you.
I don't know, but it's like him getting all messed up and waking up in the morning and he's still got his clothes on.
Yeah, he's so we're actually going to go, I think it's July 18th, to see him, and then we'll have a good review.
Yeah.
So we one thing we're constantly trying to do is condense each episode a little bit to give you more time to think about each question, and also so we're not overloading you. We're also not overloading Kyle quite as much with the editing, because he's actually doing the real work on this. So the one thing that we're going to end with is that it was brought to my attention that drinking from a straw is just reverse snorkeling. I don't know whether you had any information for it.
No.
little girl sure wish you would. Some says I ain't. The doctor called me crazy. Some says I am, some says I ain't. Preacher man called me a sinner, but his little girl called me a saint. Shots of whiskey, women around here start looking good. A couple shots of whiskey, women around here start looking good. A couple more shots of whiskey, I'm going down to Maplewood. Timbuktu. Well, it's deep Texas, yes, deep for Timbuktu. Deep right here at Buck's house, where the little girls know what to do. My number one occupation is stealing women from their men. And now, do it, do it, do it.